So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the practice paper of 2023 Foundation Set 1 Paper 3, which is a calculator paper. Now as always I'll include a breakdown of which question refers to which topic, so that if you get stuck on a particular question you can see which topic you need to revise. So let's get straight into this Foundation practice paper of 2023 Set 1 Paper 3, which is a calculator paper. So looking at question 1, it says write 4/5 as a decimal. So for this, either you recognise 4/5 as 1/5 is 0.2, so it's going to be 0.2 times 4, which is 0.8. Or alternately, you could have done 5 divided by 4. How many 5s go to 4? None. Carry the 4 over, and that will be 8. And then there is our decimal equivalent. Question 2, it says write down the word that describes the straight line P to Q, and that is going to be the diameter. For question 3, it says round 2,745 to the nearest 100, and that's going to be 2400. Then for question 4, it says work out 1/4 of 5 hours. Well, if I have 5 hours, which I'm going to represent in as a circle, so here I'm going to take one of those, so it's going to be 1 and then a quarter, so it's 1 1/4 hours, and that in minutes is going to be 60 plus 15, giving us a total of 75 minutes. Then for question 5, it says simplify this expression. So we've got C's and we've got D's. So if I simplify the C's, I've got 7 take away 4, which is 3. And then if I work with the D's, I've got 5 plus 3 rather, which is 8. So it's 8D. Question 6, it says Lynn uses 3 cards to make a 3-digit number. How many different 3-digit numbers can she make that are greater than 500? Well, if it's got to be greater than 500, it's either got to start with a 5 or a 9. So starting with 5, the numbers I could then have are 519 and 591. And then starting with a 9, I could have 915 or 951. So how many different 3-digit numbers can she make? Well, the answer is going to be 4. Then moving on to question 7, it says the table shows number of different types of sandwiches sold in a cafe in one morning. Lily uses the information to draw a bar chart, and then we need to give 2 criticisms or 2 mistakes that Lily has made. Well, the first mistake is that because we've got worded data along the x-axis, that we need to have gaps in the bar. So there's no gaps between each bar. And the other mistake, well, you always want to check to make sure that the heights of the bars are the same and correct to the data that's given to you in the table, which it is. But the glaring mistake that may have been missed is that the vertical axis or frequency axis doesn't start at 0. So the frequency or the y-axis, you could say, or vertical axis, does not start at 0. For question 8, it says reflect C along the mirror line. So again, using a ruler, which again I'm definitely not going to be doing, is you should have your shape or the image of C that looks something like this. And again, shading is completely optional, like so. And then for B, it says on this grid draw a shape that is an enlargement of scale factor C of shape C. Now with this, we haven't been given a centre of enlargement, so as long as it fits on the grid, it's going to be fine. So if I just look at the dimensions of just a few of these sides, then I need to multiply these dimensions by 2. So if I start here, rather than going 2 across, I'm going to go 4 across. So that's going to be there. Rather than going 3 down, I'm going to go 6 down. And rather than going up 1, so basically I should have something that looks like this. And if I join these up, and again you should be using a ruler, I'm doing this freehand just to save a bit of time, but if I was doing this in the exam, I definitely would use a ruler. You want to make sure that you're making advantage of using the squares as well, so something along those lines would be absolutely fine for the 1 mark. So moving on to question 9a, it says CDs cost £4 each and the offer is buy 3 get 2 free. So let's have a look at how many CDs can you buy for £60. Well, at face value, if we do £60 divided by 4, that works out to be 15 discs. Now for every 3 discs that we buy, we're going to get 2 free. So if I just count up to 15, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And for every 3 CDs, I'm going to get 2 free. So I'm going to get, with those 3, I get 2 free. 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 And with the last 3, I get 2 threes. So then altogether, how many do I get? Well, I'm getting 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So the answer then is going to be 25 discs. Now moving on to 9b, it says the pictogram shows some information about CDs. The key is missing, and it says the total number of CDs is 48. Work out the number of jazz CDs. So for this, what we want to do first is first of all find the total number of discs we can see. So the total number of discs, if we add them up, is going to be 4 plus 3.5 plus 3 plus 1.5. Now if we add all of those numbers up, we get a total of, and again just using our calculators to do this, we get a total of 12. So 12 discs equals 48. So from this we can then work out what one disc represents. So one disc equals 48 divided by 12, which is 4. So therefore this is our pictogram. So if I do a little sketch, which I don't need to, and that's going to equal 4. Now the questions ask, work out the number of jazz CDs. So we're looking at this region here. So what I want to do is then work out what 3.5 discs is going to be. So it's going to be 3.5 multiplied by 4. And again, typing that into my calculator or working it out. It's entirely up to you, whichever you prefer, but it should give you an answer of 14 discs. And there we go. To question 10, it says one of the numbers moves from box A to box B. The total of the numbers in box B is now 2 times the total in box A. Which number moves? Now, there's going to be a couple of ways in which we could do this particular question. So what we're going to do first is, first of all, add up how many numbers there are in each block. So here we've got in box A, the total is going to be 5 plus 4 plus 2 plus 8 plus 6, which is 25, and the total in box B is 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 3 plus 12, which is 32. Now given the total of this, so the grand total is going to be 25 plus 32, which is 57, and 57, well, if we want 2 times as much, well, the ratio is going to be 1 to 2. So then if I do 57 divided by 3, that gives me an answer of 19. And then if I do 1 times 19, which is 19, and 2 times 19, which is 38. Now this is what I want the totals to be. So if I've got 25 and I want 19 in this box, then I need to get rid of the 6. So the 6 changes over, and there is my answer for that one. Moving on to question 11, it says the diagram shows a sequence of patterns, and the question is asking work out the number of shapes in pattern 5. So here if I could actually draw it. So I've got, rather than having 4, I'm then going to have 5. And I'm still going to have 1 at the end. So that gives me a total of 11. The next one then says work out or complete the rule. So the number of rectangles equals the pattern number, which is 5, and that tells me what it is there. Well, I need to double that, and I need to add 1. It then says which pattern number has 33 rectangles. Well, if I write this using n, I want to work out 2n plus 1 equals 33. So 2n equals 32, and half of 32 is 16. So it's going to be pattern number 16. Moving on to question 12, it says in 2022 gas costs 54 pence per unit. A family uses 2,457 units. In 2023 gas costs 49 pence per unit. The family used 1,966 units. How much more did the family pay for gas in 2023? So first of all, in 2022, the calculation we need to do is we need to do 2457 multiplied. Now I'm going to work in pounds, so it's going to be 0.54. And again, if you did 54, that would just be fine, but you're then working in pence. So that gives me a total of 1326.78. And then in 2023, the calculation is 16966 times 0.79. And if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 155314. And then what I then want to do is work out the difference. So the difference is going to be 1553.14, take away 1326.78. And if I just quickly type that into my calculator, I get an answer of £226.36. Moving on to question 13, it says work out the perimeter of A in the ratio of B. So here the perimeter, if I start at one particular point, that's going to be 2, 5, 7, 10, 14 and 20. And then working out the perimeter of B is going to be 2 plus 5, 7, 9, 14. So then it's going to be 20 to 14. And then we just want to simplify that ratio, so it's then not 7. We can divide both numbers by 2, so that's 10 to 7. Moving on to question 14, it says work out 169% of 7,800. So we want to convert this as a decimal. So that's going to be 1.69 multiplied by 780. And if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 13182. For question 15, it says you are given that A equals 7 and B equals minus 2. Tick whether each statement is true or false. So here for AB, we've got 7 times minus 2, and that's minus 14, so that's going to be false. And then here we've got 25 times, and it's going to be minus 2 squared. And so if we work that out, it's going to be 25 times 4, which is positive 100, so again that's going to be false. So looking at question 60, it says the pie chart shows some information about the proportion of animals in a zoo. The angle for the mammals is 175 more than the angles for reptiles, and there are 4,680 animals in total. And the question is asking us to work out the number of mammals in the zoo. Now for this, what we're going to do is we don't know what the angles for the reptiles is going to be, so we're going to call that x. But I do know that the angle for the mammals is going to be 175 degrees more, so this is going to be x plus 175. Now I also know that angles around a circle add up to 360, so if I add up all of those three angles, so I've got x plus 175 plus 125, that equals 360. Now simplifying this, I get 2x, simplifying this I get 300, in which then I can then work out what x is, and x is 30. So then from this, the number of mammals I can spell it, just about can, is going to be 30 plus 175, which is 205. So then to work out how many mammals there are, I've got to work out the proportion, so it's going to be 205 over the total, which is 4680, and I then, actually no, it's going to be divided by 360, and then I multiply that by 4680, and if I type that all into my calculator, so 205 over 360 multiplied by 4680, and I get an answer of 2665, and there is my final answer. Moving on to question 17, it says blue paint and yellow paint are mixed together in a ratio of 2:1. Draw a graph so that it can be used to work out the amount of yellow paint needed given the amount of blue paint. Your graph must show up to 10 litres of blue paint. So for this, for every 2 of blue is 1 of yellow. So here yellow, if we have the scale of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, going up like so. So for 2 to 1, then 4 to 2, 6 to 3, 8 is going to be 4, and 10 is going to be 5. So all I then need to do is draw a straight line going through each of those points and 0, 0. Let me just make that a little bit clearer, and that should be absolutely fine there. The next question then says how much yellow paint is needed to be mixed to make 9 litres of blue. And so here we're going up to 9, and you always want to make sure that you're making this mark on your graph, so 9, and I worked that out to be around about 4.5. So the answer then is going to be 4.5 litres. So moving on to question 18, it says the perimeter of a triangle is 27 centimetres. The length of each side in centimetres is a prime number. Work out the lengths of the sides of the possible triangle. So for this, what we're looking for are 3 numbers, which when we add together gives me a total of 27. Now the numbers I can choose from are prime numbers. So if I just write down the list of prime numbers, we've got 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, and I don't need to go any further than that. So I'm just going to pick 3 numbers where the total is 27. So there's a few combinations we could have. You could have 3, you could have 11 and 3 in any order. You could have 11, 11 and 5. And you can also have 13, 7 and 7, in which you could write any of those combinations in any particular order. So then moving on to question 19, it says an allotment has 2 planting beds available for vegetables to be sown. Each carrot needs at least 0.1 square metre of floor space, and each cauliflower needs 0.6 square metres of floor space. Show that the total number of vegetables to be grown is larger if the cauliflowers are in plot A and the carrots are in plot B. So if we go for the 2 possible combinations, so if we go for carrots in A and collies in B, well, the carrots is going to be 4 over 0.1, and if I type that into my calculator, so 4 divided by 0.1, that gives me 40, plus, and then if I do 7 divided by 0.6, and that gives me an answer of 11.66 recurring, which is basically going to be 11. So that's going to give me a total space of 51. Then if I then do carrots in B and collies in A, then that's going to be 7 divided by 0.1, which is 70, plus, and we then get 4 divided by 0.6, which is 6.6 recurring. So that's roughly 6. So then that's going to give me a total of 76. And that is why there is more in B than in this combination in blue than there are in green. So therefore 76 is greater than 51. Then moving on to the next question, question 20, it says work out the next term in the quadratic sequence, well, if we look at the difference between, so we've got +1, +3, +5. We then look at the double difference, that's going to be +2, +2. So that means the difference between the next one is going to be +2. So that's going to be +7. So the next number then is going to be 21. Then moving on to question 21, it says circle the inequalities shown by the diagram. So we're looking for -4 and 3, which all of them are. We're looking for the first one to be less than and the second one to be less or equal to. So the correct answer is the third option. Moving on to question 22a, factorise fully. So here we want to take out the highest factor in both 10 and 25, which is 5. And we want to take the lowest power of a, as both terms have got a. So that's going to be a. And then we just got to do 2a plus 5. For question 22b, we're just factorising and solving this quadratic. So we're thinking of two numbers that multiply together give me -15, added together give me 2. So the two numbers are going to be 5 and 3. And the 5 is going to be positive and then 3 is going to be negative. Then solving this, we get an answer of 3 or -5. So then moving on to question 23, it says in a school 60% of the students are senior, 45% of the seniors have school meals and 75% of the juniors have school meals. And the question is asking us to work out the percentage of students, seniors and juniors who have school meals. Well, from this question we can see that if 60% are seniors, then that means in terms of the juniors there's going to be 40%. So out of these seniors I want 45%, so I want to work out 45% of 60%. And so if I type in 0.45 times 0.6, I get 0.27. And if I then do 40% of 75, or 75% I should say, so 75% of 40%, so that's going to be 0.75 times 0.4, and on my calculator that gives me 0.3. So then that's 27%, that's 30%. All I've got to do is add them together and I get a total of 57%. Moving on to question 24, it says the diagram shows a square. It says work out the length of one side of the square. Well, if it is a square, it means that these two things must be equal to each other. So I've got 8x minus 5 equals 4 lots of x plus 6. I then expand the brackets, in which I get 4x plus 24. Take the 4x from both sides, in which I'll end up with 4x minus 5 equals 24. Add 5 to both sides, in which I get 4x equals 29. And so x equals 29 divided by 4, which gives me an answer of 7.25. Now we've not answered the question because the question is asking me to work out one length of the square. So the length of the square, I could pick any of these two, but I'm going to go for 8x minus 5. So that's 8 times 7.25, take away 5. And if I type that into my calculator, 8 times 7.25, take away 5, gives me an answer of 53. Then moving on to question 25, it says here is a fair spinner, split them into 4 sections. Stephen is going to spin the spinner 8 times. He says that I'll get 2 of each letter. Give a reason why it could be wrong. And the reason for this, again, there's going to be quite a lot of potential reasons you can give, but as in terms of giving you the correct one, anything along the lines of it's just chance, and it's just a probability. You could say that you could get more, well, let's write that out. So you could say that you could get more or less than 2 of each letter. And something along, or you could say that something along the lines of that theoretical probability doesn't always match reality. So something along those lines for 1 mark, anything along those, hovering around that explanation would be fine. It then says that Charlotte spins the spinner 50 times. Here are the results. Work out the relative frequency of not spinning a vowel. Well, not spinning a vowel, well, B is not a vowel, C is not a vowel, and D is not a vowel. So if I do 13 plus 10 plus 7, which gives me a total of 30, and there are 50 altogether, so it's going to be 30 over 50, which is 3 over 5. Then moving on to question 26, it says polygon ABCDEF is divided into triangles as shown. Use the triangles to work out the sum of the interior angles of the polygon ABCDEF. Well, each triangle is 180. So then all I've then got to do is do 4 times 180, which gives me an answer of 720. Then moving on to question 27, it says the graph y equals bx minus x squared is shown, and it says write down the coordinates of the turning point of the curve. Well, the turning point is at this point here, and the coordinate for that is 3, 16. It then says work out the value of a. Well, a is basically where it crosses the y-intercept, and this curve crosses the y-intercept at 7. So a equals positive 7. For C, it then says circle the 2 roots. Well, the 2 roots are where the curve crosses the x-axis. So I've got -1 and 7. So I've just got to find that as an option. So -1 and 7 is our first option. Then for question 28, it says Fatima and 4 other women threw javelins in a competition. The distances in meters of the 4 other women are shown. The mean distance of all 5 women was 16.04. Did Fatima throw the javelin the furthest? And you must show you're working out. Well, if I just add Fatima's distance as being x, then to work out the average, I need to add those numbers up. So I've got 15.2 plus 15.9 plus 16.1 plus 16.8 plus x, all divided by 5, and that will give me the mean, and they tell me that the answer is 16.04. Well, if I neaten all of this and just add them all up, so I've got 15.2 plus 15.9 plus 16.1 plus 16.8, we get 64. So 64 plus x over 5 equals 16.04. I take the 5 over by multiplying by 5. So I get 5 times 16.04, which is 80.2. So 64 plus x equals 80.2. So x equals 80.2 minus 64, and it gives me an answer of 16.2. So Fatima threw 16.2 meters, which is not the furthest, and so the answer is going to be no. So then moving on to our last question, it says in the diagram below DC is parallel to AB, show that the triangle ABD is scaling. So for this, if ABD is a scalene triangle, then all interior angles will be different. So this is the proof and the fact that I'm going to be using. So the next thing for us to do is to work out each of these angles. Well, this angle here, I can work that out because angles in a triangle add up to 180. So 180 take away 110, take away 30, gives me an answer of 40. I know that this angle here is going to be 40 as its alternate. And so then I can then work out what this angle here is going to be, and that's going to be 180 minus 120 minus 40, which equals 20 degrees. So then looking at this triangle here, so ABD, we can see that all the angles are different. So as all interior angles of triangle ABD are different. Therefore, triangle ABD is scalene. And there we go.